the physiology of digestion. First of all, let us define what is digestion. What is digestion? Digestion is the process, we can say digestion is the process of conversion of complex, non-diffusible. They are complex, that's why they are non-diffusible. Complex, non-diffusible food substances into simple, diffusible forms. Simple, diffusible forms. Just simply we can say here, conversion of the complex organic molecules into that simple, diffusible, absorbable forms. We can say the digestion. We can call this as a digestion. So the motto of digestion is converting all these complex organic molecules into the simple, diffusible, that food molecules. We can say it as digestion. Simple, diffusible forms. We can call it as a digestion. Okay. So let me show you here. Let me show you what is complex organic molecule. Whatever we are eating, what we eat, whatever we eat, simply we can say here, whatever we eat, that organic molecules, carbohydrate, protein, fats. So whatever we are eating, it no matter at all. That it may be a carbohydrate, or it may be a protein, or it may be a fat. That means menu is going to be different. Might be different. Menu of individual person is going to be different. But what I'm saying here, the any food substance is having carbohydrate, proteins, fats, and nucleic acid. Emma? అవునా ఒక్క నిమిషం. So if you take our intestine, we have microvilli. The microvilli, which are composed of simple columnar epithelial cells, and the particular microvilli are having blood vessels and blood capillaries are present, isn't it? That where the particular foodstuffs we are taking should go, they need to reach all over the body. Okay, so they have to reach all over the body means they need to go at least to the blood capillaries, isn't it? So in these larger molecules, in our terms of biomolecule chapter, we can say these are bio macromolecule, excepting fats, we can call them as bio macromolecule. So these larger molecules are need to be converted into simple absorbable molecules. These larger molecules are going to be or need to be converted into simple absorbable molecules. Okay, so that we say digestion. Before we start the topic, we should know what exactly we are going to do. What exactly we are going to do, that we are trying to convert these complex organic molecules into simple, absorbable, or diffusible molecule. That means here, why digestion? If question is asked over, what is your answer? What is digestion? I am not asking what is digestion. I am asking why digestion? Why digestion? Yes. Do you have answer? Why digestion?
Getting energy.
No. Simply you should answer. That's what I am working for. Simply you need to answer why digestion means for absorption. That's all. Okay, got my point here? Why digestion means you should answer, sir, for absorption. That's all, simple. That means in the same format which we are taking here, actually, the whatever the format we are taking, that is complex organic molecule. So in that particular complex format, they cannot be absorbed. If they cannot absorb, they can't reach to the blood vessels and blood capillaries. If they cannot reach to the blood vessels and blood capillaries, they cannot be reached to the body parts for energy, for bodybuilding, or something else, whatever it may be. So that means whatever the foodstuffs, this is the foodstuffs we are taking here. This is the food, we can say. So whatever the food we are taking here, so for that particular food materials, so this is the food, this is the complex food. They cannot reach directly into the intestinal microvilli. So that's why what we have to do, we have to digest them. Meaning of digestion here we have. Digestion is the process of conversion of complex organic molecule into simple diffusible form. Now the question raises here, why digestion? What is the reason for the digestion? Digestion for, that's all. So then you can raise a question, sir, if I already, okay, first of all, let me ask here, for digestion, what are required? How do we do the digestion? ఎలా చేస్తామండి digestion? So we do digestion with the help of enzymes. That's what I said over, that for the carbohydrate, amylase, maltase, sucrase, lactase required. For the digestion of proteins, pepsin, trypsin, chymotrypsin, carboxypeptidase, aminopeptidase, tripeptidase, dipeptidase are required. For the digestion of fats, lipase is required. For the digestion of nucleic acid, DNAs, RNAs, nucleosidases are required. You'll see all these things in detail. But simply I can say here, then how do we do digestion means that with the help of enzymes. So let me say once again the order. What is digestion? Digestion is the process of conversion of complex organic molecule into simple organic molecule. How do we do digestion? How we do the digestion? Yes, how we do the digestion?
The help of enzymes.
Yeah, with the help of enzymes. So what, why digestion? Yeah, for absorption. So you may ask the doubt, sir, if I take already digested foodstuffs, is it available? Already digested foodstuffs, is it available? Yeah, definitely available. So first of all, what are the complex organic molecule? Let me write. What are the complex organic molecule? One is carbohydrate, okay, protein, fat, then nucleic acid. All these are going to be food materials, isn't it? Okay, so whatever you eat, chicken biryani or mutton biryani or paneer butter masala, whatever you eat, what are all these are? They contain these particular stuffs: carbohydrate, protein, fats, nucleic acid. So what are their digestible forms? They get digested into glucose, fructose, galactose, and amino acids, then fatty acids and glycerol, then nitrogenous bases, we can say here. So that means whatever you eat, they are carbohydrate, proteins, fats, nucleic acid, I can say. And whatever we digest, digestion means conversion of the carbohydrate into glucose, fructose, and galactose, conversion of the proteins into amino acid, conversion of the fats into fatty acids and glycerol, conversion of the nucleic acids into nitrogenous bases, conversion of the nucleic acids into nitrogenous bases. This is called digestion. Simply we call this as a digestion. This process we call digestion. So you got it now? So I am asking you, sir, what happens if we take glucose? If we take only fructose, is it available? Yeah, we are in medical shop, glucose D is available, isn't it or not?
Yes, sir.
So that is my question. I'll give one day time. Tomorrow we'll discuss. That is my question. Sir, what happens if we take directly all these substances in the digested form only? Like glucose, fructose, galactose, amino acid, fatty acid, glycerol, nitrogenous bases, all these things, if we take in digested form, what happens? Think about that. We'll discuss that tomorrow. Think about that. We'll discuss that tomorrow. So on the screen, what we discuss, first of all, what is digestion? Define digestion, we may define. Then after, who do the digestion? Enzymes do the digestion. Then why digestion? Simply we answered for absorption. Okay, absorption. Okay. Then now the digestion, the procedure. Basically, digestion is of three types. Let me write here. Digestion is of three types. Process of digestion occur in three ways. Like mechanical digestion. The first one is mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. Then microbial digestion. Mechanical digestion, chemical digestion, and microbial digestion. What is mechanical digestion? Mechanical digestion means the cutting, yeah, chewing of teeth. With the help of teeth, we do, isn't it? So cutting and chewing of the food materials with the help of teeth. Where it happens? Cutting and chewing of food by teeth, I said. So where it happens? Yeah, in buccal cavity. Buccal cavity. Yeah, we are not. We are now became technical people, isn't it? We should not say mouth. We should say buccal cavity. Okay, so that's it. Cutting and chewing by teeth, we can say. Next, one more thing, it happens in the stomach, mechanical digestion, we can say that churning of the food. Churning of the food. So, sir, how do the churning is possible? By peristaltic movement. By peristaltic movement. That means peristaltic movement means rhythmical action of rhythmical movements of the alimentary canal. We can say peristaltic movement, rhythmical contractions of the alimentary canal. We can say the particular peristalsis and the chemical digestion. Chemical digestion that we are discussing now. That is by enzymes. Whatever. In stomach, there is a possibility, in buccal cavity, in the intestine, with the various types of enzymes, whatever the digestion we are doing, we are going to call it as chemical digestion. And it is comparatively less, but that we have the microbial help also. Some friendly germs are going to provide some nutrients. Then if it all occurs, we call it as microbial digestion also. But mostly our digestion is going to be chemical digestion. Okay, that process of human digestion is going to be chemical digestion. Okay, next. You can start now. Number one, digestion in buccal cavity. Digestion in buccal cavity. So to start the digestion in buccal cavity, I need your help. For what? For the enzymes which are available in the buccal cavity. That means I can ask you, because we practiced individually. What is the juice which is there in buccal cavity? Released from the salivary glands. Yes, what is that? Salivary juice. Salivary juice, we can say. Components you have to. That means what are the components available? Yeah, for the digestion of carbohydrates. Salivary amylase. Okay. Then for the digestion of proteins, there is no enzyme. For the digestion of fats, little amount of lingual lipase is present. And for the digestion of nucleic acid, there is no enzyme. So with this information, we can say, can we say there is no possibility of protein digestion in the buccal cavity? There is no possibility of proteins in the buccal cavity. If I say, is it true or false? True. Why? How can you say? Here what I said, should learn the enzymes. We learn the enzymes separately that make us more comfort here. You see, we said there is no enzyme for protein digestion in the salivary juice, isn't it? That's why I can say there is no possibility of protein digestion in buccal cavity. Okay, can I call here? There is no possibility of uh, nucleic acid digestion.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, why?
There is no enzyme for it.
Yeah, there is no enzyme for that also. There is no enzyme for that also. That's why I said over that comfort of learning enzymes separately. Comfort of learning enzymes separately is very, very important. That's what I made a special video on that list of enzymes. I asked you to watch before we start this. Okay, so chal. I will put this on screen and one side, and then now let's talk about the buccal cavity functions. Okay, the buccal cavity. Buccal cavity perform two major functions. Buccal cavity perform two major functions. What are the two major functions of the buccal cavity? Let me write. Let me write. What are the two functions of the buccal cavity? One is mastication. What is the meaning of mastication?
Chewing and cutting of
Yeah, chewing and cutting. Mastication means that chewing and cutting. Mastication, which means number one, mastication. Number one, let me write here. Number one we'll put here. Okay, not possible. Yes, possible. Okay. Mastication. Okay, so what is mastication? Mastication of the food or chewing of the food, we can say. Mastication means chewing of the food, and that facilitates swallowing. That if you chew the food, you can swallow the food comfortably. What do you call swallowing of the food? Swallowing of the food in general called as deglutition. Remember the word deglutition. So because of chewing of the food or mastication of the food, we can say deglutition or swallowing of the food is going to be comfortable. Okay. So what are the organs helpful for the mastication?
teeth.
Yeah, very good. Teeth. And we said it also with tongue, isn't it? Teeth and tongue are helpful for the mastication of the food. Okay. And followed by swallowing, deglutition process. And what is the other issues happening here along with this particular mastication process? The salivary juice, food materials are going to be combined with the salivary juice. Salivary juice. Second, along with the mastication, some digestion also occur with the chemical digestion. The food materials combined with the salivary juice. Masticated food, should say. Now the mastication is over, isn't it? Salivary juice along with the masticated food can be called as bolus. This bolus, chyme, chyle, three will come for us. We can complete whole digestion process with these three words. That finally a single, first word came, that bolus. Okay, so what is bolus? The food material, the masticated food combined with the saliva in the form of food particles, we call it as bolus. Okay, so who secretes saliva? The saliva is secreted by the special glands. We have salivary glands. Salivary glands are there. And what are present in the salivary gland, salivary juice, that we have list of enzymes now. Just we need to see the activity of that particular enzyme. As I remind you that salivary juice is also called thiolin. Salivary amylase is also called thiolin, isn't it? We said it has thiolin, so that for the digestion of carbohydrate. Only the known enzyme, that means only the bigger one enzyme will find here. So that's why we should start with that actually, the digestion process. We need to go with that digestion process. What are the food material going to be digested here? Starch. Starch digested in the form of maltose. Okay, starch is digested in the form of maltose with the help of,
salivary amylase.
yeah, very good. We are picking up that particular enzyme from the box, salivary amylase. Salivary amylase, which we also call it as thiolin. Okay, we also call that particular enzyme as thiolin. Thiolin is doing the digestion. So along that means whatever you learned, I don't know about the digestion in your earlier classes, but you need to remember it as digestion means conversion of the complex organic molecule into simple organic molecule. In other terms, if you say starch is a polysaccharide, maltose is going to be a disaccharide. Maltose is a little simplified molecule in compare with the polysaccharide. Little digestion is part that happened that we have to see. Okay. So got it now? Now then the chemical process of the digestion, we can say it as that because it is done with enzyme, we can call it the chemical process of digestion where carbohydrate splitting enzyme, which we call salivary amylase or thiolin, then at the pH 6.8, that yeah 6.8 salivary juice pH 6.8, that starch is converted into maltose. Nearly 30% of the starch is going to be converted as maltose in buccal cavity. 30% of the starch is going to be hydrolyzed here into a disaccharide called maltose with the help of salivary amylase. In other terms, you may call it as thiolin. Okay. Then remaining, as we said, there is no possibility of protein digestion because there is no enzyme for the digestion of protein. Little amount of fat also can be digested, little amounts, lingual lipase, and there is no digestion of nucleic acid here. Then we need to see that particular functioning of mucus as well as lysozyme. Mucus always the same function, easy passage of the food material. Mucus facilitate the easy passage. Wherever it comes, you have to understand the same. Mucus makes easy passage, easy flow of food material, of foodstuffs. Yeah. Then lysozyme. Can you answer for this?
Since the bacteria.
Yeah, antibacterial agent, we can say it as. It is an antibacterial agent where it is going to kill the bacteria. It dissolves the cell walls. Particular function, if you want to say, it dissolves the cell walls. So this is what about all about digestion in buccal cavity. Any doubts in digestion in buccal cavity?
Awesome.
Yeah, simply you have to remember the box there on the right side and individual functions of that particular components. Like salivary amylase. What is the function of salivary amylase? That 30% of the starch is going to be converted into a disaccharide called maltose. Then next we'll write a point. No digestion of protein because there is no enzyme for the digestion of protein in the salivary juice. Lingual lipase. Little amount of fats are going to be digested over. There is no possibility of digestion of nucleic acid. And other components present in the salivary juice are lysozyme, which is an antibacterial agent, and the mucus, which makes the easy passage of food material. You see how composition will help us. Composition of each and every juice is helping us for easy learning of the physiology of digestion, isn't it or not? Yeah. So that's why I forced you to learn this. It got anger on me, but now you might see the comfort. Digestion in the stomach. Next, we are moving with digestion in the stomach. Let's discuss about digestion in the stomach. For that, what is the first thing we need to go for? Composition of, yeah, composition of the gastric juice. I know I'll get little help from you. Yes, for the digestion of carbohydrates. Very good. No enzyme. For the digestion of proteins. Yeah, I'm writing the original form now. Pepsinogen actually. Pepsinogen. Actually, that is pepsinogen. Inactive form. Prorenin. Okay, next. For the digestion of fats. Yeah, little amount of lipase is present, that we can say gastric lipase. For the digestion of nucleic acids. No enzyme. For the digestion of others. Means, yeah, very good. HCl. Yeah. Casyl intrinsic factor. Casyl. Yeah, intrinsic factor. As usual, our regular component, which is readily available that everywhere. That means for what it is for the easy passage of food materials. Okay, so let me make a box here where it makes us to understand this area comfortably. The gastric juice composition is ready. Now, let's link up where all these things are happened till the time whatever we said, buccal cavity, it all happened in buccal cavity, isn't it? So we need to make some sequence. The food materials are swallowed. Swallowing process of the food material we call deglutition. Process of swallowing of the food, deglutition. Then where they come? They come into the oropharynx. Then into the gullet. Who is gullet? Who is gullet? Gullet is the opening of esophagus. And esophagus opens into stomach, isn't it? Esophagus opens into stomach. So let me draw in a proper way. Okay, so then this is the gullet, and gullet opens into the esophagus, and now we are opening into the stomach. Okay, so this is the stomach, and stomach opens into the duodenum, isn't it? Stomach opens into the duodenum. Then there is a sphincter between the stomach and duodenum. Can you name this? As pyloric sphincter. Then there is a sphincter where the opening of the esophagus into the stomach. Can you name that? Cardiac sphincter. And interestingly, here in the anterior part of the esophagus also there is a sphincter. We call it as upper esophageal sphincter. We say it as upper esophageal sphincter. All these sphincters to prevent backward flow of the food material. In our terms, all these sphincters helpful prevent vomiting. Okay, this is called lower esophageal sphincter. Opening of the esophagus into the stomach is called lower esophageal. Also called? Yeah. Yeah, very good. It is also said to be cardiac sphincter. It is also called cardiac sphincter. And opening of the stomach into the duodenum is called pyloric sphincter. Opening of the stomach into the duodenum is said to be pyloric sphincter. So keep all these things in mind. Which all these issues are going to be much helpful for us. Then food material. Let's talk about the food material passage here. That as we said, everything is over in mouth, in buccal cavity, that little digestion is over, and the food materials are swallowed, deglutition through the pharynx, oropharynx, enters into the esophagus. What is the function of esophagus, sir? Nothing. Nothing means there is no digestion function. The food material, bolus, will enter into the stomach by the special movements of the stomach. What are they? Peristaltic movements. We say them as that movements are said to be peristaltic movement. You learned in first year, the smooth muscles of the alimentary canal is going to show the peristaltic movement. Now, practically, I am showing here what is the advantage of peristaltic movement. food materials will come into the stomach. Now, what is the pH of the stomach in if you compare their pH? Acidic. At least you have to remember it as acidic. pH is 1.8, but you have to remember it as that the food is acidic here. The stomach, the food is acidic. And what we call the food materials combined with the saliva. Here, here we use the word bolus, isn't it? Now, the food materials combined with the gastric juice are said to be chyme. We can define it as partially digested food materials. Partially digested food in the stomach is considered as partially digested food in the stomach considered as, what do you consider it as? Chyme. Okay, so these are the issues. Now I think we can start the digestion in the stomach. One more detail you have to remember, in this condition, the food materials are going to stay nearly 4 to 5 hours. Nearly 4 to 5 hours they are going to stay in the stomach, and the food is mixed thoroughly with the acidic gastric juice of the stomach by the churning movements of the muscular valve. We know the churning movement. As we said about the churning movements, the smooth muscles of the stomach show the muscular movements we call churning movement. With the churning movement, food materials are going to be combined comfortably, and partially digested food along with the gastric juice in the stomach, we say that particular chyme. Okay, so I'm erasing everything here that make us to understand that we need to go for a process of digestion in the stomach with available enzymes. So with your permission, I'm erasing all this. Wait a minute. So we should store this to you to send this particular to you. Now I'm erasing. Okay, so available enzymes. What are the available enzymes in the gastric juice? Pepsinogen, prorenin, and a little amount of gastric lipase are available, and HCl, caseal intrinsic factor, and they're not enzymes, but we should see a function of each and every. Whatever we mention in the composition, we have to see the function of each and everything. Okay, so mucus, along with the bicarbonates. Actually, we have little amount of bicarbonates also here. Mucus and bicarbonates present in the gastric juice. Mucus and bicarbonates present in the gastric juice. What they do present in the gastric juice? Play an important role in the lubrication and protection of the mucosal epithelium. SS? Yeah, HCl is strong acid, isn't it? That's why that it has to protect the mucosal epithelium from what? For damage. From damage. We call the damage as excoriation. From excoriation by the highly concentrated HCl. To protect from the damage of highly concentrated HCl, the mucus and bicarbonates present in the gastric juice, they are going to play an important role because the pH of HCl is that 1.8. What is 1.8? That is strong acid. That's why we need to protect first of all. Otherwise, our stomach will be digested first of all. So that's it. This is the action of the mucus and bicarbonates, as I mentioned here for you. As I mentioned, the first one of the activities over. So we'll move it a slide. Next, the second one. Second one need to go with action of HCl. What is the function of HCl? So need to talk about HCl function. If you have any known function, you can say now. If you know any of the functions of the HCl, you can say. Do you know anything? First of all, it provides acidic nature to the food, isn't it? Yeah, it provides acidic nature to the food material. That is also a kind of function we can say here. It provides acidic nature to the food. Okay. Then second thing, in this condition, that means a strong acid condition kills all the microbes. Do you accept? HCl kills microbes. How, sir? How? Simply, their a strong acid condition kills all that particular microbe which are entered in the body. So HCl we can say provide acidic condition to the food material, and HCl kills the microbes. And pepsinogen. Should talk about the pepsinogen. Pepsinogen is inactive. First of all, we need to remember pepsinogen is an inactive enzyme. So inactivate. So inactive pepsinogen. So let me write in bracket. This is inactive. That means not in working condition. So we need to convert this inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin. What do you think? So who will do this kind of conversion? Conversion of the inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin. Yes?
HCl?
Yeah. That is the third function of the HCl. Okay, that means we said it HCl provide the acidic nature to the food, where pepsin can work only on acidic condition, and HCl kills microbe. And third, HCl converts the inactive pepsinogen into active pepsin. Okay. Yes.
Screen share ended.
Yeah, wait a minute. So inactive pepsinogen is need to be converted into active pepsin with the help of how this action is going to be happened over, with the help of HCl. Next, prorenin. Prorenin is also inactive. We need to convert the inactive prorenin into active renin. So conversion of the prorenin into renin is done by yeah, HCl. So HCl. Actually, that this particular pepsinogen is having one speciality, that some amount of pepsinogen need to be converted into pepsin with the help of HCl, no doubt. But remaining pepsinogen after the conversion of pepsinogen into pepsin, after the formation of pepsin, the remaining pepsinogen is converted into pepsin with the help of HCl itself. Sorry, pepsin itself. Did you get this?
No, sir.
First of all, who need to convert the pepsinogen into pepsin? HCl. So little amount of pepsin is formed. That pepsin, what it is doing? Converting remaining pepsinogen into pepsin. Okay, so that means here actually HCl no need to make all pepsinogen into pepsin. If it convert little bit, that's enough. Remaining pepsinogen is converted into pepsin itself by pepsin. That's why pepsinogen, pepsin hormone, we use a special name for that. Pepsin is an autocatalytic enzyme. What is autocatalytic? Self-motivation. Who convert the inactive pepsinogen into pepsin? Pepsin itself. Then how you get the pepsin? That with the help of HCl. Some amount of pepsinogen is converted into pepsin by HCl, and the remaining pepsinogen is converted into pepsin by pepsin itself. That's why we can say autocatalytic enzyme. Whom we call autocatalytic enzyme? Pepsin is called autocatalytic enzyme. Pepsin is said to be as autocatalytic enzyme. Okay, whatever we got ready, our enzymes are ready now. Our enzymes are ready. So then we can move the with the help of enzymes. Now that let me ask you, is there any possibility of digestion of carbohydrates? Just see the box, you can understand.
No, sir.
No, that's why directly we are going for the digestion of.
Pancreas.
No. We are in stomach itself. The digestion of stomach is not yet over. Yeah, we are still here only. So I am asking here, in the stomach, is there any possibility of digestion of carbohydrates? No, why? There is no enzyme. That's it. There is no certain enzyme. That's why there is no possibility of digestion of carbohydrates. Okay. Next, is there any possibility of digestion of proteins?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, say now. With the help of what enzymes? Yeah, with the help of pepsinogen and prorenin. With the help of pepsinogen and prorenin. So let's start digestion of proteins. Proteins are digested by, there is an enzyme called pepsin. Activated pepsin. Inactivated pepsinogen now converted into active pepsin. What it can do? It can convert the proteins into proteases and peptones. It can convert the proteins into that, it will break down. Conversion, what I mean, it's a breakdown. Conversion of the proteins into proteases and peptones. Okay, clear? Any doubt? So need to see the special story of renin. Renin, special story. That why I'm saying special story. It is a story of kids where the stomach is very small in the kids. That means the kid is smaller, stomach is also. Newborn baby I'm talking about. In case of newborn baby, first 6 months period of time, other than the milk, they don't feed anything, isn't it? So at the time, there is a problem. At the time, there is a problem. Liquid don't stop actually. Either kid or human adult, whatever the liquid we take over, it won't stop. It will go faster and faster. So that means here liquid don't have that digest. That means here before you digest, it will pass away. That's the problem. So generally what happens, if you know that, you'll understand. It is adult stomach where food materials are going to be little bit, they have to stay. I said now 4 to 5 hours they'll stop. Where? Yeah, in our stomach. Batches wise they'll go to the intestine like this. And some time they'll get over. That batch wise they go into the intestine, small duodenum, ileum, where digestion is possible. Okay, so you see here, as I said to you, there is no possibility of liquid to be stay in the stomach. So simply we can say if a child drinks milk, it will come out before digestion itself. That's a problem. Okay, even we have that problem in adult stage, but child is only source of the food is milk, and milk is a liquid. Milk can't be stopped. So that's why it is necessary in the children that in the newborn baby, in the first 6 months of the baby, those who are taking milk, the liquid milk, need to be converted into solid. So that's it. Liquid milk need to be converted into solid. Requirement I said over. So why, sir, why should we convert? Means here, if it is liquid itself, if it is in the liquid state itself, that won't stay. If won't stay, no digestion. Okay, so in the milk, generally whatever the milk taken by the kids is having a protein. We know the milk protein is casein, isn't it? So this casein need to be converted into paracasein. That we should understand. casein need to be converted into para-casein. That means simply I am saying liquid milk need to be converted into solid. Okay. And in this particular condition, calcium also, who is doing the conversion of the liquid into liquid milk into solid? That's all. That's all. That's why we are saying this much story. Renin is going to convert liquid milk. Interestingly, there is an mineral is also participating this action, that is calcium. Remember, calcium functions are started. Calcium is in various ways useful in our body, that we can say this is the first function now you are observing. So what is going to be formed here? Calcium para-casinate. Calcium para-casinate. Okay. The calcium para-casinate is solid. Yeah, that you have to remember. Simply in general terms, I said over, liquid milk need to be converted into solid. That means casein need to be converted into para-casein along with the calcium para-casinate. This is the story. Okay. So what will happen after that? After that, the remaining, whatever the calcium para-casinate which is formed here, the calcium para-casinate which is formed here should be digested. Means after, why we are converting this particular liquid form that won't stay for a period of time. That's why we have to convert. We are converted. Okay. After the conversion, digestion as usual. Who do the digestion? Protein digestion. Protein digestion done by pepsin. Calcium para-casinate is digested by pepsin in the form of peptones. So now what
How
is,
many hours it will be inside?
when it becomes solid, it depends upon the person's digestion capacity. Means here, as I said to you, that the food material stay in the stomach for 4 to 5 hours, isn't it? You are the kids. That means for you, means here at your age, after eating, after completion of the lunch, within 1 hour, 2 hours, even you are feeling hungry, isn't it or not? Nowadays, staying at home. So that means that is your capacity. So when do we feel hungry? When stomach is vacated. General terms, I can say 4 to 5 hours it will stay. Solid, when it converted into solid, simply what we can say here, when it converted into solid, it can stay for 4 to 5 hours. Slowly it will go into the intestine, duodenum, where digestion is possible, where the digestion is going to happen. Okay. So simply we can turn it up this with the two equations. What are the two equations? One is conversion of the proteins into proteases and peptones. And the second one, the calcium para-casinate. Yeah, this one, calcium para-casinate. Sir, how do the calcium para-casinate is formed? That we have answered down. So calcium para-casinate in the presence of pepsin enzyme, it will be converted into peptones. Okay, so this is all about the digestion in stomach. Let me write here, digestion in stomach. So this is what the digestion in stomach. Most of the digestion done with proteins, isn't it? Yeah, we can say here, little amount of gastric lipase is there that also do some effort on the digestion of fats, but most of the digestion is there by proteins. Okay, so that's it. Did you get all? We are completed all the components. One pepsinogen, you see here, pepsinogen. We said pepsinogen and prorenin need to be converted active form. Little it was done by HCl, and after that pepsin can manage. Then lipase, as I said to you, little amount of fat materials can be digested. HCl functions we are seeing now. Then what is another one left over? Causal intrinsic factor, isn't it? Causal intrinsic factor. Need to see the activity of the causal intrinsic factor. What is the activity of causal intrinsic factor? What is the function of Castle intrinsic factor? Castle intrinsic factor helpful for the absorption of vitamin B12. It absorbs. It helpful for the absorption of vitamin B12. It will helpful for the absorption of vitamin B12. Yeah, vitamin B12 for the RBC production. It involved in the maturation and production of RBC. Okay, imagine if there is no B12, there is no production of RBC, which leads to a disorder called anemia. Which leads to a disorder called anemia. So why we got anemia? No vitamin B12. Then why there is no vitamin B12? No Castle intrinsic factor. Yeah, it should interlink like that. As I already said to you in the glance, but I am doing making some remembrance here that it was the greatest application asked in the NEET. Multiple links. Okay, so can we declare digestion in stomach is over? Digestion in stomach. Yeah. Now, moving on with the digestion in intestine. Digestion in intestine. For that, we need to list it out all the three components which are going to be released into the intestine. I hope you are going to be much helpful to me in that particular context. What are the three juices which are facilitating the digestion in intestine? What are the three juices? One is bile juice. And the second, pancreatic juice. And the third one, intestinal juice. Yeah. So one should have a complete idea on the three. Otherwise, it is always confusing. It always will you feel difficult here. So the clarity is required over on individual juices. The clarity required on individual juices. Okay, so that's why Nano, I'll go with individual. I'm asking you, just you answer. For digestion of carbohydrates, bile juice, no enzyme. For the digestion of proteins, no enzyme. That means here there is no enzyme in bile juice. There is no enzyme in bile juice is a bigger question. There is no enzyme at all for carbohydrate, for digestion of proteins, fats, and nucleic acid. No enzyme. Others category bile salts and bile pigments, and we know that bile salts for emulsification of the fats. Bile pigments are waste materials of the dead RBC, detoxified forms of the dead RBC. So it's over. Now, for digestion of pancreatic juice. Yeah, start. Amylase. Next, for the proteins. Now you can see trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen. Why? Why? Because they are in inactive form. Trypsinogen and chymotrypsinogen, they are actually released in the inactive form. And procarboxypeptidase, this is also in inactive form. Procarboxypeptidase. Then fat, digestion of fats. Lipase. Wait. Yeah, for the digestion of nucleic acid, DNAase, RNAase. Okay, then finally others. Yes, what are they? Bicarbonates. Bicarbonates are there. little amount of bicarbonates are there in, actually bicarbonates all the way they are present here actually, but we should follow the NCERT. Yeah, pancreatic juice. Next, last, the intestinal juice. Let us discuss about the intestinal juice. Intestinal juice for the digestion of carbohydrates. Yeah, maltase. Then here itself, sucrase and lactase. Maltase, sucrase, and lactase, which is for the digestion of carbohydrates, isn't it? Maltase, sucrase, lactase. Okay, so wait a minute. Let me adjust this. Sucrase and lactase. Next, for the digestion of proteins. Yeah, aminopeptidase, tripeptidase, and dipeptidase. Aminopeptidase, tripeptidase, and dipeptidase. Next, for the digestion of fats. Lipase, intestinal lipase. For the digestion of nucleic acid. Now you can see. Yeah, nucleotidases, nucleotidases, and nucleosidases. There, this is the three components. So at least one component of the digestion we can complete today. Yes. Oh my God, that is very, very important, isn't it? Others here. Okay, that's very important. That's why I came out of the box. Question from out of the box. What is this? That it is enterokinase. Okay, so came out of the box and it requires a new box. Yeah, so that's it. These are the components. We should have some idea on each and every component. Okay, then here we are going to make a list of individual digestion in small intestine. We have to digest carbohydrate. That means it's a climax. All the complete digestion should happen. Can't we can't say here like salivary juice, like gastric juice, partial digestion is complete, that will happen. We can't say. We need to say here the complete digestion, required complete digestion need to be possible. Okay. Various enzymes we are listed here for what? For the digestion process. Then we'll continue with this particular digestion in intestine in the form of digestion in carbohydrate, digestion in protein, and digestion in fats in the next class.